Go into the science journals. In the search bar, put in time travel. You're going to get to read stuff that confirms they can do it.
Mm.
It is just that they don't talk about it because God knows the CIA doesn't want to hear anything about that, because then we get power, and you can't have that.
Okay, hello, curious minds out there. I am pleased to welcome once again Aage Nost to our program, and Aage is a very interesting human being with a even more interesting background. Born in Norway, he developed an early interest in languages and sciences, including metaphysics and various spiritual theories. By the age of 25, he moved to the United States to attend flight school at the Emory School of Aviation in Greeley, Colorado, where he obtained multiple pilot licenses. Well, that's great. In addition to his aviation career, Aage is an accomplished author. He wrote Spiritual Science, Higher Consciousness Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. Oh, there it is. Awesome. Yeah. It's a book that explores higher consciousness and universal awareness, as I said. And he also co-authored Alien Encounters in America's Midwest, which features hidden government documents, NASA images of the moon. Well, that's interesting. And testimonies from individuals who have had extraterrestrial encounters. And guys, there's so much more to Aage. We'll talk about that today. Hey, Aage, nice to meet you again.
Well, hello. I have coffee in hand, and I'm ready to go. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. You're a free spirit and on the trail of many interesting things, Aage. How would you describe yourself if you had to?
Me? Oh God, I don't know. I'm just. I think I would say that I'm just a guy that I never learned how to be lazy. I've been doing stuff, studying, researching, doing stuff that didn't work, and doing a lot of stuff that actually did work. And to my credit, I would say that I haven't watched mainstream TV for probably about 5 years. And that is a good thing because of the brainwash coming there. I have been able to focus on where I want to go. I create the future before I get there. So when I get there, I can live the way I wanted it to be. And there's a way to do that. And if you want to go there, I can explain how it's a simple thing to do.
Yes. I also turned my back on mainstream TV a few years ago. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
For the reasons, yeah, you said. And indeed, you're not lazy. People go to Aage's YouTube page, if you will, Broacast Team Alpha, and tons of videos there with interesting guests. I've looking at your videos now and then, and not too long ago, I saw an interesting video with this guy from, man, where was he from? Was he from Sweden? No, I'm not sure, man. Where was he from? It was a very interesting video indeed, and you've let me
Yeah.
find it real
Yes.
quick. His name was similar to yours, I think. What was
Yeah, it was Carlson. Yeah, I think it was Carlson.
Yeah.
And yeah, and he talked about goofy things that happen in extraterrestrial and UFOs in Sweden. So that's next to Norway where I come from. So it was kind of interesting for me.
Yes. Yes, he was from Sweden, right? That was very interesting. So, guys, Broadcast Team Alpha, look it up. Leave a subscription for Augie. It's always helpful. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
one more thing while we're talking about that, go to broadcastteamalpha.com and go into the picture gallery. You're going to find 5,000 pictures of things that should not exist, but it does.
5,000 pictures. We went through a few the last time we speak, if I
Yeah.
remember right. Like I said, it's been a while since we talked, and today I want to talk to you about time travel, which is a big topic, right? Um, Everyone that I talk to would love to travel back in time and check out if the history books tell the truth, which they probably don't, I guess. Me personally, I would love to see what the world looks like in, let's say, a few thousand years in the future. That would be great. So I don't care too much about the past. I would love to see the future,
Yeah,
500,000 years in the
yeah.
future. That would be great. What do you think?
Yeah, you did mention the past, and we got to remember the definition of the past, as I see it, is the commonly accepted lies in the moment. There's not much written. Half of the stuff in the history books are probably not true. So there's interesting stuff even there, but the future is a lot more interesting because when it comes to time, scientists are saying there is actually no evidence, no physical evidence to the fact that time even exists. They talk about it being a mind construct created by us so we're able to separate the present moment in distance from each other so we can better understand, because our mind is not able to understand if we get a clump of information from past, present, and future at the same time. We cannot distinguish between the concepts in it. So the thing about it is that I have read probably about 6 or 7 different scientific journals that say, yes, we know how to make a time travel machine, but we can't really do it yet.
Hmm.
So if they know how to make it, why don't they do it? Well, there is a good reason for that. If everybody got available to them a method to travel into the future, they're going to start changing, and especially if they go into the past and start changing things. Let's say that you had an accident in the past where something happened, and then you go back and you change the accident. The occurrences caused by that accident no longer exist. How can you then, in the present moment right now, deal with that? There is, what happens is that, yeah, the incident may disappear, but you create a new timeline going into the future where that thing did not exist. But remember, energy cannot disappear, or it's just go away. It's changed in form. Thoughts, images, happenings in the past is energy. It does not go away. So that occurrence will continue, but that is in this timeline, the one that you create by altering your decision back there so that the occurrence did not happen, creates a new timeline. So now, how do we distinguish in which timeline we are? That is done by the mind, not the brain. The brain is just a computer. It records past and present history. Once you start engaging the mind or the brain is an integral part of the mind because the mind is non-local. It has access to absolutely everything in the universe. If we believe it, know how to do it, and go and do it, we can access just about anything. Now, also, there is an article in, let's see, it's bbc.com on July 11, 2018. They say, they're talking to a scientist that says, yes, we can build a time machine. And then let's go a little further back. Ben Rich was the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works in the United States.
Mhm.
Right after he retired, he made a statement in an interview where he said, "If you have seen it on Star Trek, we already know how to do it."
Oh yeah, I love that, and let's talk about that too in a minute. But I think I know what article you're referring to. It's you said BBC article, and I think they've talked about the possibility of using wormholes for time travel, and they talked about Ron Mallett's concept, something like Professor Ron Mallett, that has developed a theoretical concept for a time machine based on the use of lasers, I guess. Was it? I think it was that article, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, there is several different ways to do it. One you can do just with the mind alone. And in this book, in the back of it, I have a whole chapter explaining how to do that. And the reason I can explain how to do it is because if you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, go into the picture gallery, I think it's page 15. There's two pictures in the middle of the page that is evidence of time travel that I took the pictures. So go have a look at that if you like. But time travel is really hard to wrap our heads around if we do not understand what time is. So what is time? It starts in the past, going through the present, and heads off into future as potential for physical creation. How does the potential show up? It shows up by us imagining things in the future. Because thoughts are things. We place those thoughts at time-coded events in the future. So now what we can do is in the present, we can go and visit those things that we already placed in the future. And the more we do of that, the more we are drawn up that timeline to it. It solidifies the timeline. And when the time-coded events show up, let's say that you wanted to have something happen by next, let's say, New Year's Eve, then when you keep visiting that every day and doing everything you can in order to help make it happen, you're going up the timeline. And when New Year's Eve come about, all you do is just walk into it, and it's yours. I have done that. That's why I have a lot of good things happening. And everybody should do this. That's how you create the future. In fact, if people want to be part of a mastermind that do this every weekend, you can come and have a look at our mastermind that Nori Love and I put together. Send me an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. I'll get the email, I'll send you information, a link, and you can come and visit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays. But back to what time is. Time is actually a mind-created construct. So it is mind-created. We got to remember what physicist James Gates are saying. He say that if we look deep in the equations of the fundamental particles of the fabric of space, we find computer language. We didn't put it there. It just shows up. And that tells us that the universe needs a way to explain itself to us, and the only language we understand is computer language. So it brings us the language we speak, and they explain what the universe is. When time is actually somewhat similar to a square wave generator because it has some similarities to that. Time is a succession of present moment, one place, one after another, and they are really close. They are the distance between one present moment to the next one is one of the Planck distance. Physicists and people that have studied science, they understand what that means. Really, really small distance, 1 to the 32nd to the 10th. So when you have present moments stashed one after another, one going from the present into the future, then when you go through it so fast, it looks like one movie to you, and you are the star actor in the movie. But in between each one of those present moments, there is nothing. The present moment is a spike that holds information, and it moves over a little bit and collapses to nothing. And then it spikes again with information in it, and it collapses to nothing. The universe recreates itself one Planck distance apart and creates a present moment that is recorded by your mind, and you are able to travel through it in a linear form where your mind will be able to understand each present moment as a succession, so you kind of get linear time out of it. If you go to Broacast Team Alpha page 15, you can see the two different pictures. They are, first of all, they're time travel pictures, but also two different timelines, because the pictures are taken at the same time, but the pictures look different. So I don't know, if you click on the pictures and there's a lot of text with it, you can read how I took it. In fact, in this book, you can go and experiment yourself.
Yeah, I will put a link to the book in the description, guys. And I also think if time travel is a thing, there's no machine or device necessary. I truly believe that it will be possible by learning to fully utilize our mental abilities, and then maybe it feels just like an astral travel or a lucid dream, which already could be some kind of time travel. Actually, that's what I think could be. But on the other hand, I tend to think, how can I be sure not to confuse what I see with a parallel universe or an alternative reality? So another question would be, how can we be sure that if we go back in time to an event that already happened, how can we be sure that what we see really happened? And how can we be sure that we not created a new timeline and what we see didn't happen that way, right?
You got it. Boy, that's one of those conundrums, or I don't know. There may be, but I don't know any way to ensure that you stay in the same timeline, because in order to change this, in physicality, it is locked in, but you can move the mind out of the physical into a higher vibration where time and space do not exist as we know it, and we can move backwards and forwards, and then slow down and come back into physicality again. That is what extraterrestrials do when they travel millions of light years. They leave the physical, scoot forward to a predetermined time or energy, and then they slow down and come back into the physical, and now they're here visiting with us. So, or many of them. There are others too, band space and so on. Yeah, that works too. There are many different ways. But the concept of timelines is real. And we create new timelines when we make major decisions. Now, I'm not so sure that you create a new timeline by every thing that you do. If you drop your spoon on the floor while you're having breakfast, I'm not so sure you end up with a new timeline from that. So I don't think so. But let's say that I know I created a new one back in Europe. I grew up on the farm and I was supposed to take over the farm. I went to agricultural college and I got my education. And I ran the farm for a while, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. So I came to the United States to become a professional pilot, and I did that. I broke with the timeline of the farmer, and the farmer is still back there. I am back there as a farmer, still wondering how that guy's doing. But that is two different timelines. And here I did it again. And when I started as a flight instructor, I worked for 3 years for other people to get more experience. And then I ended up going in business with a partner and we started a flight school. And there was another break. I had a chance to become a corporate pilot and I could have done that. And I was kind of set on doing that until the opportunity came to start my own business. And then I broke with the previous thought. That was another break in a timeline. And years later, I quit flying and started doing radio shows and studying and developing the mind and so on. That was another timeline for me. So this is what happens. And I can go back. I haven't done a lot of that and find out what happened to that other guy that never left the farm. But I have an incident where I have a pretty good idea. But this is something people can do. And it is really simple, but the steps for it I laid out here. If you don't like your timeline, create a new one. And there is a lot of evidence for time travel. Let me just take about 45 seconds and explain one of them that is undeniable. And that is about Andrew Carlsen. In 2003, he was arrested for insider trading in New York. And he started with $800. A few weeks later, he had multiplied that money into $350 million because he did 126 high-risk trades, never lost one. And it is written up in World News, a weekly World News, I guess it is called, March 19, 2003. They wrote an article about this because they investigated it and they found, yeah, this guy really existed. And they were set a bail for him because they put him in jail and they said, you're going to give us your sources because this is insider trading. And I said, I'm sorry, Judge, I'm a time traveler. I know history. I knew these companies would make money. So I came back with $800 and I just got involved in the game and I'm sorry, but just let me go. You can keep the money. Now, the judge, if it wasn't for his ears, his smile will go all the way around, I'm sure, because he was laughing at him. He put him in jail and he said, you're going to stay in jail until you tell us your source. And he put $1 million bond on it. I think 2 or 3 days later, a guy came in with a suitcase with $1 million in it, gave it to them, and they both left and they were never seen again. Now, the thing about it, Andrew Carr seen that there were no records of him. He had no fingerprints anywhere, no birth certificate, no license of any kind. The man did not exist. They took his picture and fingerprint and ran it through Interpol and other police agencies around the world. Could not find him anywhere. And now there are people on the internet. I see that, yeah, there was just a story that was made up. No, the hair in the soup is that I checked with Raker's Island, where he was held in jail. And yes, there's a record of him, Andrew Carr, seen in 2003. He stayed there, I think it was for 3 days before he was bailed out. So, yes, there was another charge that they don't talk about. They talk about insider trading, but there was another charge there, and that was lying to the court. Nobody talked about that, but I found it. So, lying to the court by saying that he's a time traveler. This is so well documented, you cannot get around it. $800 to $350 million. Now, that's my kind of guy, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So just because a few thoughts on what you said earlier. You said the farmer Aage is still back there somewhere. You can go back and ride on the timeline of the farmer again. So
Yeah,
just because it's hard to wrap my mind around, you're telling me that the timeline with Aage the farmer still exists parallel to the timeline you're in now?
yeah, in the present moment, in another timeline.
It means there's two Aages with the same consciousness and the same.
And there's more than that. We have one guy being a farmer, and most likely there's another one that became a corporate pilot. The third one continues staying in business and creating a more of a flight school, international air taxi, and an air carrier, which we had when I sold out to my partner, and he continued. And there's other times when I have changed not should I say, totally changed my direction. That created a new timeline for me. So there are many of us out there.
What does this tell us about the consciousness being unique? And
Yeah, it's unique. But the thing about consciousness, it creates thought. Thoughts are things. It doesn't go away. So when I was on the farm, I was imagining my future as a farmer all the way through to way into the future.
so your consciousness created the timeline. So it split up and created the timeline.
You got it. That timeline, because I thought it into existence, is still there. It continues.
Right. Gotcha. When I sink into my thoughts and reminisce about old memories, which I do a lot because I love what I did in my stuff, it's also some kind of time travel. Sometimes this memory feels so intense that it's more real than the reality we're experiencing right now, you and I. I can smell things, I can taste things on my tongue, I can feel things on my skin, and I can touch things, and I feel it, and I feel the wind on my skin and stuff. Sometimes I refuse to believe that these are all just let's say fragments of my memory that I have stored away there, and that I can retrieve for a brief moment. I refuse to believe that it's very realistic. Sometimes you know, in Germany we say daydreaming. I guess everybody on the world says it too, like that. We say you stare a hole in the air. Sometimes you're just staring and you're gone for a second, and if you're back, you don't know what happened in front of you, but it's just for a brief moment, and in that moment you're daydreaming, or you're reminiscent about old times.
Yeah.
But where have you really been in that moment? You haven't been here, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's fun doing that, because both you and me have done an awful lot of fun things back in the past.
Oh yeah.
And It's fun to go back there and visit that. You said you don't think it's just your figment of imagination. Yes, it is. It starts there. But your figment of imagination creates the rest of it on the basis of the memory that is the real thing because it's thought. So now you create the past, and that's why you said you can almost smell it and feel it because the past is already there created and you can visit it again and it recreates itself.
And in that moment, when I'm dreaming about old times, sometimes I go back to the event that happened, and I'm sitting in the grass with my friends, smoking cigarettes and having a beer, or just talking. And then we had no cell phones back then and stuff like that. But I can um I can live through it again as it
Yeah.
happened. Or sometimes I'm doing things different. I'm saying different stuff. It's the same seeing me the same age that I was back then, seeing my friends the same event, but I can change it if I want to. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so crazy.
That's the small variances within the same timeline.
But
You
it's not
could be,
changing a timeline, right?
no, I don't think so, because let's say that in one memory, when you went back, you lost a spoon on the floor in breakfast. And the next one, if you go back, you didn't.
Mhm.
I think there's room for small variances within the same timeline. At least that's, I've studied quite quantum mechanics quite a bit. I'm not so much into the equations because two or three equations into the formula, I lose myself. I just can't do it. But the concepts I can understand. And there is fluidity. There are room for fluidity within each present moment of frame of time. There is fluidity in there in the concept. So I think what you are going back, let's say 20 years, you're sitting around playing poker, having a beer, and there, in one of them you might win something, and the other one you might lose 20 Deutsche Mark. Actually, maybe you were still using the euro back then, 20 years.
Yeah, we had it was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Euro was already there, but yeah,
But there is variances. There's room for that in the equations and the concepts.
it's very
But
interesting, but it's very hard to wrap one's mind around, right? It's
yeah, I know.
complicated. It's complicated because like I said, you can think in all directions, and probably nothing is wrong and nothing is right too. But that's very
Yeah,
strange.
I
Are you
know.
are you aware of by any chance of ancient traditions or legends that clearly mention time travel?
Uh, what did you?
In context of let's say maybe ancient tribes or stuff. So they talk about the ancient alien theory. Maybe you've heard of ancient accounts where ancient people mention time travel, like clearly talking about portals and time travel, stuff like that.
I remember. Okay, I got it. There, there's not a lot of that, but there was an Australian shaman aborigine. He said there was something that happened to his village that was really bad news. And he said, we will correct it. I will go back and change the past so it did not happen. And I remember that phrase. So the Aborigines, the shamans, they had a concept where they could go back and change the past so that negative things in the future did not exist in that new timeline for the village. Now, that's a tricky one because what if it was in the soul contract of these people in the village to go through that thing? Well, they still get to do it because the previous timeline will continue and the new one will not have that thing in it. So it is okay that way, but it is tricky because you may or you may not end up in the new timeline. If you end up in the new timeline, it is unlikely that you will be able to remember the old one.
That's, yeah.
Because it's a different energy stream.
Yeah. It's time is crazy concept. Time.
Yeah.
I mean, we call it time, whatever it is. In reality, it's. And what is reality, anyways? So, when I'm at work, I say, "Man, this day flew by like it was nothing." My colleague says, "They crazy. They were so
Yeah.
long," and I said, "We worked the same amount of time, brother." But he said, "Man, it felt like 20 hours," and I said, "This day flew by as if it were nothing."
Yeah.
So,
No, that's so simple. Go into the science journals. In the search bar, put in time travel. You're going to get to read stuff that confirms they can do it. It is just that they don't talk about it because God knows the CIA doesn't want to hear anything about that because then we get power, and you can't have that. So there is no talk of it in the media. And science journals, they write about it, that it's possible to do, but there's one caveat that they seem to put in there, and that is that we know how to make the time machine, but we do it, at least Michio Kaku says so, that we don't have the energy to fuel it. They said we need the energy of a sun. No, you don't. The energy of the mind can fuel it. The mind is more strong in energy. It can bend energy, can create energy, or not create so much, but it can bring energy into the physical. And this is, when I started out messing with time travel, I had an electronic device that I've had some very strange experiences with. In 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States to do a TV documentary on time travel. And they had Michio Kaku on there and Green. And there was another theoretical physicist and myself. I demonstrated a time travel device on the TV documentary that was actually shown to 1 billion people around the world in all English-speaking countries. And this machine gave me some experiences from where I built on it to now. I have the machine sitting there if you want to see it, but I don't need the machine anymore. The mind can do it. This is something that everybody actually can do, but it takes a little bit of training. There is a little effort involved. And some people catch on like duck to water. Others need more time. I was one of the ones that needed more time.
and you have to be enthusiastic for the topic itself, of course, because some people don't even put effort in getting up in the morning. So
yeah, I know.
It's not meant for everybody. Not to insult anyone here, but yeah, it's not everybody's topic also. So I would love to use time travel. However, even if it's a machine or if it's the mind, I don't care. I would use it to verify some historical accounts that are dismissed as mythology, maybe, even though they might be based on real events. That would be crazy cool, don't you think?
Yeah, and speaking of historical events, you probably are familiar with the temple in Abydos, Egypt.
Yeah.
That when they got into it, there is this panel on the wall that has perfect carvings of a helicopter, and also kind of like a flying machine underneath it.
Yes, they said it was a hieroglyph, and then they put another one on top of it, so that's why it looked like a helicopter or a flying machine. That's the official explanation.
Yeah, of course. What else could they say?
Yeah, of course.
You can't admit that this is possible.
No, no. So uh, might be possible, but I don't think so. I think they would have removed the old because it's chiseled in, right? Not it's not chiseled half a meter deep. It's just chiseled a little bit in. They could have removed the old one and put the new one on top of it, so nobody can confuse it for something else. So this is why I
Yeah.
think the official explanation is bull crap. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Could be.
Well, there's always that, what I'm concerned, that always that 1% of doubt that we got to keep that in there,
Yes, of course.
because nothing is absolutely locked in stone when it's in the past, because people have been dealing with it, and people do goofy stuff sometimes to prove something that they are right. Everybody wants to be right. Just anybody in the archaeological arena, they want to be right, especially of us.
Yeah. Um, it
But
might be. Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Um, it's a little bit off topic, maybe, but not too much. Considering Einstein's theory of general relativity, which posits that strong gravitational fields can distort space-time and possibly enable time travel.
Yep.
Do you think that we already have stuff like that? Like really have it? Because I'm thinking about incidents like the Roswell account where they captured this flying saucer and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we have uh, anti-gravity stuff already. And
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
say if you conquer anti-gravity, you can conquer time travel. That's what they say. So in
Yeah,
theory.
the Germans did that in 1940. They created Die Glocke,
Yeah, of course.
and that was both a power system and a time machine, because it created a bubble around it, that inside of that bubble, the mind could direct in either direction, right or left, different timelines as well as past and forward. Uh, I, that one gets deep.
That
And
won't get.
I know I've seen some German written in German documents that Colonel Wendell Stevens in Tucson had. He talks about the Glocke, or the bell, and he said they the first one they did, they speeded up. They used red mercury as the fuel, the substance inside. They had two cylinders, one going from right to left and one outside going from left to right. And inside there was red mercury. The first one they made, they speeded it up to about 30,000 RPM, and the thing disappeared. They had to start all over again.
And it never came back, I guess.
Never came back.
How? Even, yeah.
So yeah, and that was written in German documents that Wendell Stevens had. He hasn't talked much about that, but I interviewed him on my TV show in Tucson, I think 3 times, when he
Oh,
talked about some of these things.
awesome. I, I've read some crazy stuff. Someone wrote that it could be possible that the extraterrestrial technology we may have had for decades already, such as from Roswell or similar incidents, could be kept from us due to our perceived lack of ethical maturity. What do you
Yeah,
think? I think that's a crazy thing to say because who decides, right?
well, Germany had their own Roswell. In 1937, there was a crash of a big craft down in Bavaria, and it was quite big. And the Germans got a hold of that, and of course, back then, limited science, they didn't know what to do with it. They tried to get in. And according to the document that I saw, they tried to get in for days. They couldn't reach the hull of it, but they did make it in. And they found some things inside that they, again, did not know what to do with. Besides, there were people in it. So you may be familiar with this one. Since you live in Germany, you may have researched something.
Where was it? What's the place called where it happened? Do you know?
I don't remember that. This is a long time, since this is about 20, probably 22 years ago that
Yeah.
Colonel Stevens talked about this, and I saw the papers.
I will look it up. We might have talked about it already. Something is ringing a bell, but
Yeah.
I will look it up. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Before we started recording, we mentioned CERN.
Yeah.
CERN is also very interesting. What do you know about CERN in context of time travel or time anomaly?
Well, the concept of creating this has been around a long time, since back in the early 1950s, when they decided that 11 countries going to get together and create a think tank that will build equipment to further the development of science, which was at that time a very good thing. The question is now is that what we see and what we hear of what they're doing, I have to ask myself, is this good for mankind, what they really are doing back there?
What is their agenda? What do you think? The real agenda, what do you think? Is it?
Well, I think there's two agendas.
Or excuse me. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No. One of them is the outwards consumption. That means what we want to project to the world or what we are doing. We are doing this scientific research to get a better understanding of the universe, and so that we can create technologies that will make your life better. Now, that's an admirable one, but there's one behind it. And that goes deep. They know that by creating what they're doing, they're opening up something that we term as a black hole.
Do you think they knew it before, or was it a sight?
No. I think that happened. They first got the idea for that one, I think, I forget. There's a date for this one. They had an accident. Mm-hmm. And after the accident, they saw entities in the corridor that came through, and that was immediately covered up. These entities were really ugly ones.
Are there descriptions of these entities or theories?
Yeah, they were more like cryptoids. They were not good-looking entities at all. But see, what I see that they're doing is that they got to follow the linear science projection into the future so companies can make money. They cannot go outside of that. So they have a goal of their perception of their goal set. So now they create science to bring them to that goal. That final goal has to happen. So they structure the findings to confirm the goal of what they want. One of the goals was the Higgs boson, and they found it. And it's a real thing, but they said that, that's a God particle, the smallest particle in the universe. Smallest? What happens if you find the smallest particle and cut it in half? Now you got two particles. That should be smaller than the one, shouldn't it? So you're going to find smaller and smaller particles when they get so small that they phase in and out of physical existence. and you bring them into physical existence by thinking about it. Remember James Gates? When we look deep in the equations explaining the fabric of space, we find computer language. And I think that what they are doing over there is the results are based on the double slit experiments, where we show that the universal particles, at least electrons, they are particles when you observe them. If you don't observe them, they turn into waveform. So when we are not observing anything outside of our field of vision, looking at it through a microscope or interacting with it somehow, it's a particle. But where did the particle come from? It came through that waveform outside of the physical, now emerges into the physical and becomes a particle. So we can deal with it. We can hold on to it. Well, technically, with magnets we can. And they are shooting protons through the circle under in the Swiss border and the France border. And the protons, they're kind of like bags of particles. They're created by consciousness. Anything smaller than a proton that phases in and out of the physical. And they come in as a waveform, but inside of them, there's a black hole, because it comes in as a particle of thought from the universal mind. Every particle of thought that builds the waveform of consciousness has a black hole in it. That is one of the reasons why we, as physical beings, can engage in thought that is transferred out through our gate into the consciousness universal mind, where it can look around and find similar vibrational concepts, latch onto it, and bring that waveform back into the physical, where it turns into particles, and we construct things with it so we can enjoy it in the physical. That is what we are doing in the mastermind that I mentioned before. And it's phenomenal things are happening. Seems like we're creating out of seemingly nothing sometimes. So
give me an example of what you can create.
Yeah, they are opening up by crashing those protons together. They are creating smaller particles, a whole bunch of them. It goes in all kinds of different directions, but they are contained within the magnetic field. In there's black holes. Through those black holes, particles of thoughts can come out, and that's most likely what happened when that accident happened. And they were seeing entities in the hallway, ugly looking entities. This talked about by some of the physicists or people working there. But the lid was put on that one and clamped down. But it's, I think I saw a video on YouTube about that, and a good long time ago. And maybe we should search for that. CERN accident, CERN projections. I'm going to look into this, because this sounds more interesting the more we talk about it.
Yeah. I wonder if they ever get rid of these entities again. That's the question that I'm asking. What happened to these entities? They created some kind of black hole or portal. These entities came through, So
Yeah.
and then what? That's the interesting part. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they remained physical, chances are they got a hold of them and got them contained. I don't know, or maybe the universe have a safety valve in it, and that is something that astro travelers can use that in order to. When you get so far out there, you have really no idea where Earth is. All you have to do is to think yourself back, and bingo, you are back here. So the safety valve probably works in other universes as well.
Yeah.
Now,
So
2021, when they did that one experiment where they had the accident, 59 new particles were created, different particles that nobody knew anything about before. They call them hadrons, and they have named them now, omegons and hectagons and things like that. So these particles, every one of them, has a black hole in it. So if things can come through there, I saw also another YouTube video where they had a camera that showed a light, some really strange things that happened right over the center of the CERN circle. They were lightning, they were green, blue, and yellow, strange lighting there in the center of the circle. So I think there's some things happening there that they don't know what they're doing and they're not able to control it. Things can come through and possibly remain here. And that may not be a good thing if we don't know what it is.
you cannot control what you don't understand, I guess.
There
So
you go. Yeah.
that's a very crazy thought. Before we come to an end, there's something that I wanted to ask you. And this is only secondarily to do with time travel, I think. But I believe that many of the phenomena, because we spoke about these entities that came through, many of the phenomena that are observed, let's say primarily, I'm talking about UFOs, are a product of our consciousness. This is my theory. Well, not only mine. I did not create this theory, but I worked on this theory a little bit. I think that we create these phenomena, not in CERN, not when it comes to CERN, of course, but people see UFOs, people see Bigfoot, people see ghosts, people see all kind of stuff, entities, shadow figures, stuff like that. Not all sightings can be explained by this, of course, but certainly many. So do I think. Um, and the UFOs that people saw, let's say in the 50s, corresponded visually to the zeitgeist of this era. And so it goes on through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, right? And therefore it sounds very logical, at least to me, that some of the UFO sightings and encounters are a reflection of our consciousness, or better say, subconsciousness. I don't know why that is. My horizon is probably too limited for that. So it still blows my mind. But if I had to guess, I would say that with all that's happening here on Earth, we are looking for some kind of savior that comes to our rescue. There's a lot of, excuse my language, shit happening right now on Earth. And we have a lot of sightings from different of different phenomena over the last few years. You know, I think somewhere in our mind we're looking for some kind of savior, someone that comes making things good again, and not only that, that gives us hope for the future, because that's what everybody wants, right? We want hope. We don't want to be afraid of the future, and because we cannot find this savior, a savior like that here on Earth, we know that nobody will save us. Nobody here on Earth will save us from all that stuff that's happening, from war and uh, you name it. And because there is no
Yeah.
savior here, we are unconsciously maybe manifest these supernatural phenomena like UFOs that can disable nuclear missiles and are superior in everything else. So that's part of my wacky
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think anybody's going to come and save us either. The only savior here for me is me, because I can create my future before I have to live it. I do that by engaging the mind, visualizing, using a spiritual language that the unified field understands and reacts to. I imagine the future I want it to. I feed it with emotion, intention, and I help as much as I can to make it happen. And I feel gratitude for already having it now, because the universe only works in the present moment. The present moment is moved over one one Planck distance apart at the time, but it's only a present moment. So when I have created this ball of perception of what the future will be like, I place it in the future and I go back and visit it every day. I never miss a day where I do not go up there and I visualize what I created. And so far, it really is working for me. I I don't have, well, yeah, flat tires and stuff, things happen,
Yeah.
but otherwise, good things are happening. So that's one of the things I show people how to do. Use your mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible. Teach them how to do that in this book. And I get emails, not every day, but several a week, saying people that my life changed by reading it.
Like I said, we'll put a link in the description, guys, to
Yeah.
this awesome book, and yeah, go out and get it. Do you think that if I created different timelines, let's say I created 5 or 6 timelines, and I exist on every timeline, do you think there's uh the radio guys say bleed through? If you have a distant station, sometimes you have a bleed through from a nearer station, and you hear stuff coming through from the station on a frequency there where it shouldn't be. So, do you think that can happen? And this is what we call deja vu, maybe, or maybe sometimes
Oh, yes.
the doorbell is
Absolutely.
ringing and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And there's a concept for that in quantum mechanics. It's called time slippage.
Oh,
And that means that you let's there are ley lines ever so often. There are Nikola Tesla, he mapped it out, and he saw there are, I think it's about 200 meters apart. There's a big ley lines and smaller ones in between. And when you pass through those ley lines, there's energy fluxes that can interact with your own energy, and you can actually slip into a different timeline where things are slightly different. I have had that happen. There are there I bet everybody watching this show have had something happen to them that they can't explain. They suddenly find themselves in a place that, wait a minute, I don't remember that being there. No, this didn't, I don't, it's different than what it used to be in your mind. I bet everybody had that happen. Like coming back from the grocery store, and You're a handful of grocery bags, and you put the car keys on the island in the kitchen. You put the groceries away, and you go to take the car keys off the table, and they're gone. Where did they go? You might find them in your pocket. You might find them still on the car seat. Goofy things happen, and you cannot explain it. That could very well be time slippage.
Very interesting.
I had that happen in the kitchen.
Me,
I found the car keys in the freezer, and I had not opened the freezer yet. How did they get there? Yeah.
I lost mine. Was looking for them for 2 weeks, I think. Then I found them in a box in the house that I've never opened. So the kids also said they no, I didn't put it in there, and I know I didn't open this fucking box, but the key was in there, and I was for days I was like, how the hell did the key get in there? That's
Yeah.
so crazy. I really don't know what happened. Maybe I was a little bit gaga, or I don't know, but it was very strange. And yeah, like you say, a lot of people experience stuff like that. That's very interesting. Aage, there was an interesting talk. One last question, maybe. Also a little bit off topic, but since I have you here and you're you're like you're awesome with all that stuff and your ideas are great. Could it be possible that, or do you think, because I do, that a universal consciousness exists that connects humans and extraterrestrial beings?
Yep. Everything, absolutely everything is connected through this universal consciousness or the unified field, or by the strings explained in string theory. The strings goes everywhere. It connects everything. Since it is connecting everything, we are connected to it, so we have access to it if we know how to access it. That's what I explain in that book. And it changes life. Once you understand how you can access resources and energy in the quantum field and bring it into the physical, it can be done by what you do in your mind. There are mind techniques to do this, simple ones. Yes, we are connected to everything. We have access to everything. We can, well, this is going to be hard to believe, but there are absolutely nothing you cannot do.
I think so too. I really do think so. Do you think there's anything on Earth or in the universe that doesn't have a purpose?
That what
It
purpose?
does not have a purpose?
I think it may have a purpose. Everything may have a purpose, but not in the present moment. It may be a purpose that will come alive for some reason 2,961 years from now.
Yeah.
But it has a purpose at some time in our existence. Because the universal mind is basically a creative, positive energy that creates things for a purpose.
Well,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Now that you've done bending my mind, I think I need a little rest and think about all that stuff we've talked about today. Guys, please go to Broadcast Team Alpha and broadcastteamalpha.com. Hope I said that right. And follow the links in the description and also get the book. Aage is very enthusiastic when it comes to this book because everything is in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have no shame. I'm going to show you one more time.
Yes.
And that's Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. And the book's been out there for about 9 years now, and it's still going pretty good. So if you go to Amazon, into the just put my name in there. That'll be good enough. Then the book will come up along with another few things. And look in the descriptions of the what's it called, the reports on it.
Mm-hmm.
Look in there; they're pretty close to five stars, and there's some really good explanations about what happened to them after they read the book.
Yeah, I saw that. A lot of good ratings on that book. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you said it's out there for 9 years already, and it never gets old because informations, they do not get old.
yeah.
It's like that. It's like that. So thank you again, Aage. That was great, and please stay with me for 2 more minutes, okay?
Okay, and before I go, in the words of Spock, live long and prosper.